Coming up next, we're going to tell you a little bit about George. George Nelson is an Idaho native, and he has succeeded at combining his personal passion for environmental and wildlife sustainability with his career goals when he joined the Digester Dock team last year. At Digester Dock, he has been a part of developing new ways to clean energy solutions in support of a sustainable energy future.
Yeah, and so, I mean, a big shout out to Digester Dock. You know, there are one of our presenting sponsors, and this was a relatively new development. Like they had seen a talk where I was chatting with the Boise Chamber of Commerce, and they're like, "Hey, you guys are doing stuff that we need to get involved with." And so they actually have quite a young team, and these guys are, you know, kind of scientists, you know, kind of sales guys, business development. Like they do a little bit of everything, and they're very creative. And so they're oftentimes a lot of their applications are in the agricultural sector, but they can really just handle waste. They teach other corporations and other farmers and ranchers how to be much more efficient, more effective in their operations. And so it was really exciting for me just to start getting to know what they're doing, because they have a lot of capabilities. And that's one of the coolest things of just running into a small organization like this that is really forward thinking. You know, it's like, well, what can we actually do together, and who do I need to go connect you guys with?
Yeah, they get it. Yesterday I was talking with them at the booth, and they're passionate. I mean, it doesn't matter if the cameras are rolling or not. These guys are super into what they do and why they do it. So I can't wait for them to share more with us about all of that.
Passion and purpose is contagious.
That's
so
it.
George, come on out.
Come on, George Nelson. Let's bring it.
Man, if you guys weren't here next year, you guys got to come here next year, because that lunch was amazing, and you guys are missing out by not coming. Thank you. As I said, my name is George Nelson, and I'm here from Digester Dock. So Digester Dock is a full-service anaerobic digestion consultation laboratory where we specialize in the ability of turning waste into renewable natural gas and renewable energy. Excuse me, sorry. Like I said, just ate lunch. One of the big things that we run into here at Digester Dock is not everybody understands and utilizes the waste that they have to its fullest potential. And unfortunately, a lot of this waste turns into methane and is produced as just methane and vents up into the atmosphere. And these methane emissions need to be captured. Capturing methane is incredibly important because methane itself is 25 times more damaging to our planet's ecosystem than CO2 is. And so we have to work on capturing these methane emissions. The nice thing with captured methane emissions is that we can then turn them into RNG. And RNG is useful because it can actually replace our need on dependent fossil fuels. Currently, the United States is emitting approximately 14 trillion pounds of CO2 annually. Now, that 14 trillion pounds does take into account how damaging the economic impact of methane is. Now, 14 trillion pounds, if you're anything like me, is really hard to understand. I think about it as far as like the US national debt, and it's too big of a number. But if you break that down into a daily number, currently every day we are producing 40 billion pounds of CO2. Now that sounds scary, but there is hope at the end of the tunnel. For example, that daily emission comes out to approximately 8 million F-150s every day. The weight of 8 million F-150s we are releasing in forms of methane, CO2 emissions. Or if it's still 8 million F-150s is hard to conceptualize, that's 950,000 semi-trucks every single day. My favorite number, because I like space and I like that we went to the moon with the Saturn V rocket, is it's 4,742 Saturn V rockets that is going out as CO2 emissions every single day. RNG we see as the climate crisis solution. Like I said, there is hope at the end of the tunnel. While we are producing all of this methane, that methane can be captured and made into a clean, sustainable fuel. Now we need to capture this methane because not only is it damaging to our environment, but it's also very damaging to our population. According to current estimates, there's over 775,000 people annually hospitalized with asthma-related issues that can be caused back to methane emissions. And over 250,000 premature deaths happen every year that are caused by methane emissions. So RNG and methane isn't just the crisis, it can also be the solution. Well, what is RNG? To put it simply, RNG is the same thing as natural gas, but it's renewable. So instead of having to drill into our earth to gather this natural gas, we're able to produce it from a waste source. And the plain thing is, we produce waste every day. Whether it's our homes, in our businesses, or in our farms, everything is producing waste annually. Now this waste does decompose, and organic waste decomposes and produces methane. But by capturing the methane and putting it into our natural gas infrastructure, we're able to then harness the full power and potential of our waste. The nice thing is, RNG is made and it's renewable, like I said. RNG is gathered in multiple different ways. So we start by identifying a feedstock. Feedstock is a waste source, whether that be from an animal like in this picture, and we gather it and put it into an anaerobic digester. Now, these anaerobic digesters produce the methane through a process called methanogenesis. So there are a couple other processes that take place before that, but the big one being methanogenesis, that's where we get our methane. When this methane is produced, not only does it produce methane, but it also does produce some additional byproduct gases that we don't want. So the next step that we take in is we take the methane and we scrub out the CO2 and the H2S, or hydrogen sulfide, and then we end up with pipeline quality methane that we can then inject into our nation's infrastructure that's already there. Well, what is waste? It's poop. Or as my 2-year-old daughter said the other day, it's poo. But it's not only poo. And not only poo. I have my daughter in my head. It's not only manure. But manure is the #1 leading cause of methane emissions right now. It's something that we need to discuss. It's discussed already without our side, without our evidence, without our knowledge. And we need to be a part of that conversation and explain how we can take this poop and this manure, and instead of letting the methane vent into the atmosphere, we can capture it and make it an energy source. What do anaerobic digesters do, and how do they play a role in this? So anaerobic digesters are where everything takes place. It's a little bit easier to understand if you think about it as a cow's stomach. So everything is happening the same as it is in a cow's stomach. When you go into an anaerobic digester, you're going into an anaerobic environment, or no oxygen. When there's no oxygen, that allows for the beneficial bacteria of, excuse me, sorry, again, lunch. That allows for the beneficial archaea and bacteria to then be able to produce the methane that we can take off and clean up and put into our natural gas pipeline. Now, there's a lot of science and a lot of misunderstanding when it comes to digesters. Unfortunately, for a long time, digesters were sold as this magic black box that you just put waste into, it produces gas. But through digester doc research and through our latest science and technology advances, we've been able to understand the role that biology and chemistry can play in these, and we've been able to more than double what was once thought possible of energy production from dairy manure. In the last year, we have seen digesters go from moderately feasible in the United States to having less than 20-month return on investment. And that's a lot of waste. Now, how much waste is that? So every single day, we are producing 33,000 tons of chicken manure, 267,000 tons of hog manure, and 560,000 tons of dairy manure. And that's manure that everybody thinks of as waste. But we need to stop and we need to change our thought process on that. That's no longer waste. We need to consider that as energy, because that is energy that we can capture, and it is clean, renewable energy. Now, not only is it manure, while we do talk and joke about it being poop, and we are in the brown gold rush of anaerobic digestion, there's a lot of additional food sources that feed these digesters. Right now, that's coming into the industry in the most powerful way is food service and food waste. Every single restaurant, even here, we produce food waste. And we're looking at how to capture that, and there's a lot of states that are looking at how to capture that and return that waste into energy. We've even done tests on odd things like brewery waste and applesauce. These are all things that are produced everywhere, including here in Nampa, that we can capture and make energy. My favorite one that we played with one time was the internal paunch manure from cows when they go into the slaughter facility. Right now, that one is looking at being destroyed by, I think they're doing flies on that one, when we could be putting that into digesters and producing energy with it. Some of the agricultural benefits for this, because this isn't just beneficial to us in producing energy, this has to be beneficial to the farm and to the person that has the digester on their site. The biggest benefit to the digester owner is it's a manure management plan. Every dairy, every hoggery, every chicken producer has to have some sort of plan to deal with the manure. This allows them to have a sustainable energy producing manure management plan. The other nice thing that comes off of it as some benefits is you can also grow additional crops to feed the digester. Different energy crops you can put into the digester and produce energy. And the advantage being is that now you've got additional cover crops and additional crop rotation sources. One of the big benefits that we saw last year through COVID was with the supply and demand issues that we were seeing with the milk oversupply and not enough demand. These dairies were losing thousands of dollars every single day because there wasn't anybody to buy the milk. And the dairies that did have these anaerobic digesters on them were able to supplement their income and provide an additional income source for their family and help sustain them through the pandemic. What do we use RNG for? Currently, we're using RNG right here in Boise as a way to do our mass transit system. So our buses are powered by compressed natural gas, and our allied waste garbage disposal companies are using compressed natural gas. And that's just the beginning. There's many other transportation industries that can benefit from this. In manufacturing, which is where RNG takes its biggest role, I think, because it can go into hard to electrify industries such as the steel industry and the concrete industry, they can use that RNG to power their heavy machines where batteries and electricity struggle. In the agricultural industry, there's been many dairies out there that have been able to completely cut the grid and get off the electrical system because of their anaerobic digesters, and they're using the RNG that they produced in their machinery, in their daily operations, and have zero electrical bill to pay. The biggest one being that everybody concerns themselves with is the electrical grid. Right here in Idaho, Idaho Power currently has 3 natural gas to energy electrification systems, and it's producing 11% of our daily energy demand from natural gas. The industry potential, I kind of hinted on this. We are seeing the ways of the future coming right now. As more and more companies like CAT and GE produce better generators and better engines that can run on RNG, the possibilities are quickly becoming endless of what we can do with this RNG when it's produced. The great thing is we already have the infrastructure there. The infrastructure is there because it's there as the natural gas pipeline. And once that RNG is produced and cleaned up and put into natural gas pipeline, it blends with natural gas, and you don't know the difference. You're probably already using renewable natural gas in your homes when you cook, or when you heat your home, or when you warm up your water from your water heater. Because that infrastructure is there, there's no need to tear up roads, produce new electrical lines, or produce new industries. We've got the infrastructure there, and we're already using it, but we're not using it for RNG. RNG we are lacking in this country. Currently, Europe produces 18 megatons of oil-efficient RNG, and we are only producing 3. If we want to be the country that legs leg forward in renewable energy and renewable natural gas and climate solution, we need to bring up this number and get ahead and get even with Europe and how they are producing RNG through anaerobic digestion. Now, no industry is without critiques. We understand that. One of the biggest critiques that we get is because it is poop and it is a waste product, is there's a smell. Now, that smell can be combated in a number of ways. By having proper biological and chemistry within the digester, you're going to be able to have less smell and less stink going on. As well as in Europe, they actually have digesters within 100 yards of residential facilities, and there is no complaints upon the smell. RNG is a gas component, it's not electrical. While this is true, it can be produced into electricity. There's generators, GE, that produce generators, and Idaho Power and many other power sectors are already taking this natural gas and generating electricity with it. There's always the question of gas pipeline leakage. Like I said, we've already got the infrastructure there, but by demanding more on it and relying more on it, there's going to be a higher push for our economic benefit to create these pipelines and make them stronger and safer. And the plain fact is we leak 100% of the methane that we don't capture. Currently, the United States could produce up to 11 trillion cubic feet of RNG annually, but we are not. This RNG from dairy manure alone would produce over 400%, would cause over a 400% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions in our population every single day. And the nice thing with this RNG and anaerobic digestion and turning waste into energy is it costs less than 3 times that of any other greenhouse gas reducing method out there, because it's a waste product that people throw away. RNG is profitable. Currently, we're seeing states like California, Oregon, Washington, and New York pushing into the RNG sector and demanding that food waste be moved from going to a landfill to either a RNG producing facility or a food waste facility. By having these incentives and having those capabilities out there, not only are digesters getting paid upon the methane that they're producing and putting into the pipeline, but they're also getting paid on the credits and that are being produced from these digesters. And the wonderful thing is with our RNG infrastructure and with our pipeline infrastructure that we already have in place, wherever you are in this country, you can connect and claim to those credits. Carbon negative. RNG and anaerobic digestion, as per Argonne National Laboratory modeling, is one of the only renewable natural gas sources that doesn't just get carbon neutral, but actually gets carbon negative. Because you are able to capture so much energy from the waste, and it costs so little gas and infrastructure to produce RNG, it's actually able to go carbon negative. And it's incredible that we have this capability to produce energy that's better for the environment and reduces our climate change crisis calendar, and we don't implement it as much as we should. That being said, I hope you guys will think about this and look forward to talking to you guys and think of how your waste impact can impact the environment and what you can do locally to produce better RNG and better sustainability. Any questions? Well, thank you guys for your time. Hope you guys have a lovely day and look forward to speaking to all of you.